Hey there, I'm going to show you how to lay a beautiful hardwood floor over concrete using battens. Now, there's 3 phases to this process. The first phase is prep, the second phase is laying down the battens, and the third phase is laying the hardwood floor over the top. I'm going to show you all the steps you need to know in order to get this done. All right, let's do it. Stage 1, prep. The only tools you need for this stage are a tape measure and a mobile phone. Make sure you've got enough vertical space to install the floor. Australian residential building codes have minimum ceiling heights of 2.4 metres for living rooms and bedrooms and 2.1 metres for bathrooms, kitchens and other service rooms. As an example, my ceiling is 2.440 metres high, the hardwood battens are 19 millimetres high, and the boards are the same. So that works. Bear in mind, sanding will increase the height a bit. The next thing to do is measure the floor space. Measure the length and width, multiply that together. Do that for every room and hey presto, you've got the area you need materials for. It's common practice to add 10% to this figure for waste and mistakes. Good idea to do that. Alright, step 2, battens. Crowbar, you need a handsaw, a crosscut saw. You need a drill, a hammer, a reciprocating hammer drill, PPE, and then in terms of supplies you need the hardwood battens, obviously. This is a countersink head, about the same size as the head of the concrete anchors. These are 6mm by 50mm concrete anchors, galvanized. You see they have a flute in them. And this is a masonry bit. This is a full bore 6.5 masonry bit. You can do this whole job with this saw, but if you do have a miter saw, it does make things a bit quicker. It doesn't affect the outcome of the job at all, it just makes things a bit quicker and easier. So we decided to start laying the boards at the end of the room which would be used the most and get the most foot traffic. This is just because the side you end at might be a little wonky, but the side you start at will be nice and square. Next up, check if the floor is level. If it's not level, use packers with the battens to level them out. Now it's time to remove the skirting. In my case, this was tacked on earlier. Find the nail holes, as this will show you where you need to get a bar underneath to gently lever the skirting off the wall. We lay the battens perpendicular to the direction we want the floorboards to go. We space them 450mm apart from each other. And I marked these intervals in guidelines up and down the room so I could follow these guides when I put the battens down. And let's lay some battens. Just a note, I've laid the battens you see here to use up some shorter floorboards in a cupboard. That's why the space between the battens is less than 450mm. It's really simple to lay the battens. You just use a hammer drill through the battens into the concrete and then suck up the dust. Don't forget to set the depth on the drill. You don't want to drill through your slab. Set the depth to the length of the anchor and you're good to go. Then we use a counter sink head to help prevent the wood splitting. I clean that up and then drive the anchor in. I found it best to make the flute in the anchor match the direction of the batten and be gentle with the first few strikes on the anchor, which also helped stop the batten wood from splitting. Yeah, that's it. So there's a lot of this to do. It's pretty fun once you get into it, pretty easy. Sweet as. We're up to step 3, laying the boards. Right, so the tools and supplies you need to lay the hardwood floor is a straight edge. Ideally a longer straight edge than this. I do have a longer one, I just can't find it, so this is just as an example. A hammer, again with the crowbar, a mallet, a caulking gun, a finishing nailer, and one that does 16 gauge, and obviously the compressor and hose to go with that. And you need PPE and a chisel and the saw again. Now in terms of supplies, you need some liquid nails or some just construction adhesive, doesn't really matter. You also need these. You need some 16 gauge 35mm brad nails. I need tongue and groove flooring, and crucially, air for the compressor. You also need a secret nailer. Now this was a loaner for me, so I've given it back now, but I'll show a picture of the one you need on screen. And for that you also need secret staples. Right, so there's some rip cuts you need to do, some long cuts along pieces of timber along the length. Now it is possible to do these rip cuts with this saw, however, it'll take a bit of time to do. So you can do it, just takes a bit of time and effort. Alternatively, if you have a table saw, this can save you a bunch of time. Again, just like the miter saw from the Battens, this guy here, you don't need a table saw, but it does make the job substantially quicker. Like I mentioned when laying the Battens, we chose to start from the most visible edge to the wall because the room may not be square and you get a nicer finish on the edge you start at. You also really want this first line of floorboards to be nice and straight because it will become the edge you lay every other board against. Start laying the boards with a 10mm gap between the wall and boards to allow for the wood to naturally expand and contract along the grain. So just to show you on this test piece, once you've come through and secret nailed through top of this, you come along with the brad nailer and you do a face nail. So each board gets a secret nail with one nail gun, then you come back, change the guns over, and put this nail gun on and come through the top. The only exception to this is the first row you lay. For this row, you're going to want to put a 10mm spacer between the wall and the board, and you're going to want to put the brad nail, not the secret nail, in first. This is so the secret nail has something stopping it from sliding the board around. Before you put any glue down, it's a good idea to inspect the board for any damage or chips or splinters so you can remove them. Then it's also a good idea to do a dry fit of the board because some boards will fit better than others. Then it's just lay. Grab the board, squish it on to the glued up battens and fit it in using a rubber mallet to get the board nice and snug. After that, come through with the secret nailer, carefully line it up, and then actuate it. So that's all there is to it. Nice and simple, and there's lots of this to do. It's much easier with a helper, especially if you have longer boards, as they're sometimes a little bowed and need some jiggery pokery to get a nice clean fit. That said, when you actuate the secret nailer, it'll help close any gaps. Now there's a few small jobs you need to know about as you go about laying the floorboards. You need to cut under the architraves so the boards fit under nicely and there's no gaps in the finish. It's really easy, just use a loose board over the top of some battens to get the right height, then run a saw through the arch. Do this on each side of the wall as needed. A test fit at the end shows this all fitting nicely. The other side of this is fitting boards under the arcs. Measure the space, making sure to leave 10 mils between the wall and the boards for wood expansion and contraction. Mark out an equivalent space on your boards and then just cut it out. Be sure to do a dry fit before you glue and nail. When you get towards the far wall, you'll notice that the secret nail gun doesn't fit in the remaining gap. In this case, grab some spare boards and use a bar to close any gaps and maintain tension on the board, and then use your brad nailer to secret nail the boards. Diagonally nail on top of the tongue in the same direction as the secret nailer. When you get to the end of the room, you need to make skinny boards that will fit within the gap you see in the middle of the screen here. Crack out the table saw and rip the board so that it will fit between the rest of the floor and the wall with a 10mm gap. And sometimes it takes a little bit of faffing to get these guys in. You might come across damage to the boards. If the damage is proud to the normal profile of the board, then you'll need to get rid of it. Here we have a tongue which has splintered. If I try and fit a board over this damage, I'll get a nasty gap and my boards won't fit together properly. Fix this by chiseling out the damaged section. Alright, almost there. You would have noticed by now that the tongue and groove floorboards only go in one direction. This is fine until you need to do the other side of a wall or go around a corner. The way we deal with this is to create a double-sized tongue that fits into the groove ends of the floorboard, transforming a groove into a tongue. You can buy these, or you can make them out of spare boards and a table saw. Just make them the same dimensions as the tongue with double the width. After that, it's as simple as tapping the reverse tongue into the groove and keep laying as normal. Okay, phew, made it. Thanks for sticking all the way to the end. I hope you got something useful out of this video. And if you did, please drop me a like and let me know. There are a few more steps in order to get this done to this beautiful level of finish you see here. After laying the floor, you need to sand the floor. And you also need to finish the floor with a product. Now, we got someone else to sand our floor because we're lazy, various reasons for that. And we also finished the floor with a product called Bona. We used Bona Natural, I think. Anyway, I'll leave a link to instructional videos on how to do those two steps because there's plenty of videos out there to show you how to do that already. I'll also leave a link to the products that I used to finish this floor. This floor is a mixture of Australian red mahogany and other mixed Australian reds. Yeah, I think that's everything. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. Oh, last thing, and I'll leave a link to the place I got this timber from, which was a timber supplier based out of Sydney. Cool. Okay. Thanks for watching.